Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about that weird article that came out over the weekend that was basically just a direct insult to Brandon Sanderson, the fandom, and his family and friends. So instead of giving more air to all that negativity though, I want to just talk about Brandon's response because a lot of what he said in this response just is so Brandon. It is just so like just whatever, ignore the haters and like that kind of thing. And I just really like the attitude that his response kind of projects, and it really kind of just reassures me that he is the kind of person I always kind of thought he was based on seeing his lectures and like that kind of stuff. And even to the point of him being readily able to admit his own faults and things like that. So yeah, I just want to kind of go over it. Probably going to speed read through the whole thing and then kind of talk about some parts that really stick out to me. So yeah, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And let's begin. So I'm going to probably also put the article up here so you all can see it because, again, it's on my computer screen, which is over there. So I'm going to be slightly sideways and I'm going to just go ahead and read it. All right, so let's just go ahead and start. I may or may not stop to express my thoughts. I don't know. Who knows? Let's go. All right, so Brendan says on the Wired article. All, I appreciate the kind words and support. Not sure how or if I should respond to the Wired article. I get that Jason, in writing it, felt incredibly conflicted about the fact that he finds me lame and boring. I'm baffled how he seems to find every single person on this trip, my friends, my family, and my fans, to be worthy of derision. I agree, because you can write a negative article, like, yes, go ahead, everybody, Brandon definitely has thick skin. Like, you can write negative articles, but, like, you're just being derisive and insulting. That's just not journalism. But before I continue, there is something I also noticed. While looking up different articles by that person, I kind of noticed the other articles lean very negative as well. So I'm kind of starting to feel like that's just this person. He's just like a very negative person in general and probably does it just to get like, flashy headlines so that they get clicks because it's, revenue based and all that stuff. So it might be like a strategy. So I don't know. It might be some personal weirdness, but it's probably just, for the clicks, like a lot of stuff is. So yeah, let's go ahead and keep going. But he also feels sincere in his attempt to try to understand. While he legitimately seems to dislike me and my writing, I don't think that's why he came to see me. He wasn't looking for a hit piece, he was looking to explore the world through his writing. In fact, he and I are the same. I respect him for it, and even if much of his tone seems quite dismissive of many people and ideas that I care deeply about, um, even if even if his tone seems quite dismissive of many of the people and ideas that I care a lot about. This is, in my opinion, is Brandon being a little too generous. It's, I feel like it's him being a little too generous. Like, basically still looking for camaraderie and stuff. Like, we're both writers and like giving him benefit of the doubt, saying he legitimately tried or whatever. I don't really think he did. I think he went in going knowing that he was going to write a at least a mostly negative leaning article and just kind of had a field day. So I don't really think he was truly making an attempt to truly understand. I think he was more just trying to understand why isn't this person George R. R. Martin levels of recognized or something like that. Um, so, I'm not offended that the true me bores him. Honestly, I'm a guy who enjoys his job, loves his family, and is a little obsessive about his stories. The one hidden trauma, there's no hidden trauma, no skeletons in my closet, just a guy who trying to understand the world through story. That is kind of boring for an outsider's perspective. I can see how it's difficult to write an article about me for that reason. I understand this sentiment because probably. I don't know, because to me, this is basically too inside baseball because nothing about that's boring. Somebody who tries to understand the world through story is fascinating. That signifies fascinating psychology to me, and it's something I completely relate to because I often try to understand the world through story and allegory and metaphor and stuff like that. So it's obviously not going to hit me the same way it apparently hit Jason, and he just I don't know, but it's weird to be so curious about why this name isn't bigger in the media world in general, much less the fantasy world, but you don't seem to understand the personality type of somebody that writes like this. I mean, and considering they're a writer too, I don't know. Whole thing, yeah. I'm not as generous as Brandon clearly is in this Reddit post. But yeah, let's keep going. But at the same time, I'm worried about the way he treats our entire community. I understand that he didn't just talk about me, but about you. As has happened, as has been happening to the fantasy fans for years, the general attitude of anyone writing about us is that we should be ashamed for enjoying what we enjoy. In that tone, it feels like he's writing during the 80s. Yes. Look at these silly nerds liking things. How dare they like things? Don't they know the things they like is dumb? That's exactly what it feels like to me. It feels like someone basically, I mean, for lack of a better way to describe it, someone outside of the club trying to understand why is everybody in there having so much fun and getting irritated because they can't understand it. Like that's kind of where I feel like the article ultimately came from, not necessarily trying to understand Brandon. So, let me scroll down a little bit. As a community, let's take a deep breath. It's all right. I appreciate you standing up for me, but please leave Jason alone. This might feel like an attack on us, on you, but it's not. Jason wrote what he feels he needed as a writer, and he is my colleague. Please show him respect. He should not be attacked or for sharing his feelings. If we attack people for doing so, then we make the world a worse place because fewer people will be willing to share their authentic selves, which is a concept I really agree with. And I guess I'm much more react, attack back than Brandon is. So I'm just going to take this as pure advice and just be like, yeah, ignore it. Granted, this is just poor journalism, and I'm chalking it up to trying to cash a check because it very much triggered the fandom. I saw numerous videos on this subject. I didn't even get to watch all of them. But after a while, it got a little repetitive hearing people just reread it and reiterate the same opinions I already had. So it was an echo chamber. In this video, honestly, it might be an echo chamber too. I don't know how many people have spoken about his reply. But in any case, yeah, I still feel some type of way about the article, but I basically am just letting it go at this point. I really like Brandon's reply because it is showing like, an ultimate high road kind of mentality. So let's keep going. I want to read these last couple little paragraphs. Okay. Oh, okay. I completely lost my spot. So, as a community, okay, no, yeah, I already read it. As a community, take a deep breath, blah, 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 because fewer people are willing to be them. Yeah, okay, I really do have more comments on that last paragraph, but I'm going to let it go because at that point it feels like I'm fixating and I really don't want to do that. So let's just go ahead and jump over to the next one. That said, let me say one thing. You, my friends, are not boring or lame or going postal. Or one of my favorite novels, Sir Terry Pratchett, has a character fascinated by collecting pens. Not pens like you might think. They aren't like Disney pens or character pens. They're pens like tracks used to pin things to the wall, like push pins. Outsiders find it difficult to understand why he loves them so much, but he does. Oh, see, that's almost like Tress and her cups. It was just, such a, it's just, it's always just so heartwarming. I don't know. I mean, because, of course, Brandon understands us and we understand him more or less, and that's how, the connection is made, and that's why we're all a part of the fandom. Or that's why you're a casual reader of Sanderson or just like to hear people like me talk about him. I don't know. So, yeah, let's keep going. Where was I? All right. So, collects pens, and Stanley Hauer is special, in part because of his passion, and more you get to know him or anyone, the more interesting you find them. This is a truism in life. People are interesting, every one of them, and being a writer is about finding out why. That is so true, which is why I kind of push back on Brandon's comment about him being, his colleague or whatever, being another writer and blah, 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 because if he was trying to do essentially what Brandon mentions here with the ideas that Terry Pratchett put into his books and stuff, then it wouldn't have come across as just so randomly mean. Like, it wouldn't have done that because it would have shown more of an understanding, more of a curiosity, more of an interest instead of just, I don't get it, so let me be derisive, let me talk crap, let me, take them down a peg or whatever. Like, it's just, that's kind of how it comes off. So it seems disingenuous, and Brandon is definitely giving him more credit than he probably deserves. So yeah, let's go ahead and finish this off, because apparently I had more to say about each paragraph than I thought I did. So let's go ahead and finish this off. In that way, the ability to make Stanley interesting is part of what makes Pratchett a genius, in my opinion. That's writing, not merely using words. It's what I aspire to be able to do. People are wonderful, fascinating, brilliant balls of walking contradiction, passion, and beauty. I find it exciting, challenging to make certain that the perspective of the washerwoman or the monk sitting and reading the book is as interesting as the story as the king or the tech mogul. That is true, because there is still a character. Just like specific example. So there's a character. I mean, I hope he comes back. We still got like 6 books left, so maybe he will, or just like in the Cosmere in general. But the Amian guy who was doing research on all the Spren and was like recording them on his body and stuff because they can admit it. Like, that was just such a random kind of interlude in Way of Kings, and like we never really go back to it. And I'm still so curious about what he's doing. Who is he? Who is his people? What's the whole thing? Now that we know so much after Dawn Shard, I'm like, we need more. Like, I don't know. So it's really cool. Like, that character who got barely any page time at all is just as fascinating as any of the other main characters. And I think that's really, really cool. And that is something that Brandon clearly does strive for, because I could probably give you examples like that within all of his books. So it's definitely something that he tries to do, make as quote-unquote mundane of a character as they will be contextually, but also give them a story that is as fascinating as your main characters, because every person has a fascinating story. Because one of my favorite phrases that I actually heard reiterated in multiple books actually is the old adage, be kind to everyone you meet, because we're all fighting difficult battles. And like, I just love that, because to me, that goes hand in hand with treat others how you want to be treated. Like, that philosophy is basically what makes up how I treat people. Eyelash my eye. All right, let's go ahead and finish this last one, because I'm getting rambling. All right, so, and I find value in you. Your passion for my work is a big part of why I write. You make my life special, and thank you. Oh, it was one last sentence, and I thought it was like a whole paragraph. He did leave like a little a note down here. Note, I do want to make it clear again that I bear Jason no ill will. I like him. Please leave him alone. He seems to be a sincere man who tried very hard to find a story, discovered that there wasn't one to be that interested him, and floundered in trying to figure out what he could say to make deadline. I respect him for trying his best and to write what he obviously found a difficult article. He's a person, remember, just like each of us. And I like that. That is a good sentiment. And I think that last paragraph, that note, is probably the most accurate to what it was. Like, he couldn't really come up with an article. He couldn't figure out an article to write. And because he thought, I don't know what he thought. I couldn't hazard a guess. He seems to have had some sort of assumption that Brandon and like his entire enterprise was just so much more, I don't know, dramatic or something. I don't know, to get a better story out of or something. Or maybe like George Martin has like so many extrajudicious interests that like you can talk more about their other interests than about their primary interests or something like that. I don't know. I don't know the explanation. I just know that I really like this reply to it. It is very even keel. It is very Brandon. It is very on mode for Brandon. And it is just a cool kind of way to see it. Basically, it's a very much YouTube adage. Don't read the comments. It is very much that, even though my channel is awesome enough that I like to read all of your comments, but there's definitely bigger channels where all the comments are just negative, and they basically say don't read the comments. So to me, that's kind of feels like a little bit of the energy Brandon's giving off here. So I understand it. The article was junk, but to be honest, it probably did give Brandon a little bit more exposure, and especially with the potential of Hollywood, having come a knocking recently and stuff like that, maybe his name does need to just get out there generally in the zeitgeist. And the fact that most of the fandom did just kind of go up in arms, including other fantasy writers and stuff, kind of did go off on Twitter a little bit about it. Maybe that will get his name out there a little bit more, and it'll make the whole transition into other areas of media that much simpler for him. So maybe we can look at this as something that will have ultimately a positive outlook on the world, a positive effect for everything in the fandom, in the community, and just like in general. So let's be optimistic about it, because that's kind of how I'm going to see it. I'm going to take Brandon's advice and not even worry about the guy whose name I've already forgotten about twice. What is it? Jason? Yeah, that was the name, Jason. So I'm going to bear him no ill will. I'm not going to worry about the article. And just like most everyone else on the internet, I've already forgotten about it. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Did you read Brandon's reply? I'll leave a link to it if you haven't read it and you want to read it in its entirety. So let me know what you think about that. And do you agree that we basically should just go ahead and ignore it and see how it turns out? Will it just kind of work in Brandon's favor as more media exposure? Which, you know, could be a good thing. So yeah. All right, so make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.